유기죠!
So looking back at the past then, one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys is, do you think that old decks, things like wind-ups, Tail Dad, Dragon Rulers, Spellbooks, all that kind of thing, do you think that these should be brought back into a level where they can compete? Maybe like as a sort of 1.5 or tier 2 level deck? And
Wind-ups are fine.
Depends what the
ban
deck
Hunter.
does.
I think it depends
They
what
can
their
have three
angle
deck cards that ban Hunter.
is.
Thanks.
so I
Bring
mean,
people
as long as you
back to
don't
the
bring you
game.
don't want to bring anything back that's going to be tier 0, right? You don't want to bring anything back that's going to be tier 1 because then you can't sell new products. But these
do you mean bringing them back by unbanning stuff or by just printing really broken cards for the archetype?
I mean by unbanning stuff and then printing something that's semi-good. You know, every now and again they could print something busted if they wanted to, but
When you
then
look
I
at
think they'd have to ban it again. So
Helix or Spiral comes to mind.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So do you think that there are other decks that should come back?
I think wind-ups can come back if they ban Hunter because it can still hand loop you. Even if links, because the wind-up link.
Yeah, but then it could just become a link spam deck, right? Which is fine.
I guess
Yeah,
you
it'll
look at
be-
it, can it adapt to a Link era of Yu-Gi-Oh? Sometimes things just need to be left.
Wind-ups could adapt a
In
little
the
bit,
past.
but I don't think it's as good. If they ban Hunter, it can still hand loop you, which is just dumb. If they don't ban Hunter, they can still hand loop you.
I mean,
Rather.
Okay.
with wind-ups, it's just going to be a suboptimal build of another combo deck.
Yeah.
Like,
You have
Albeit
to
more
balance the creativity of the game to bring out new cards as well as supporting old archetypes. So I think as long as they have a balance of the two, I'm happy with them bringing decks back. As long as it, again, like Ryan said, there's no like older cards that are proving to be a problem in the game, such as Wind Up Hunter, or other cards that can actually ruin a format if supported to do so.
Key example is probably like, I mean, who the hell's going, oh, Inzectors are terrible right now. Like, Inzectors would be a problem for however long they were on the list, you know?
Please, Free Hornet and Dragonfly.
Issue is
Inzector.
they have a
Oh,
has to play test these cards, and when you're looking at older cards, I guess the product team are just not going to be as experienced in knowing the possibilities of these cards. That's why bringing Hornet and Dragonfly, you're like, these cards are actually not that great, but these cards are not once per turn, and they don't know possible interactions that we could find, so they have to be careful.
Have to give like Konami, R&D, whatever team you want to call them, a bit of slack with it, because yeah, it's almost impossible to test things. Don't get me wrong, they get stuff wrong. Let's not pretend that they don't, but they're trying to, I think almost the reason they're so hesitant to bring stuff back so much is because they're hesitant to bring anything back that hasn't been tested to death effectively.
So let's suppose that. So I haven't heard anything about this. I just want to be clear. They haven't said anything about this to me. This is an idea I've just been thinking about for a while. Let's suppose that Konami offers this opportunity where players in the community would test out previously existing decks, things that have been banned extensively, and then would come to Konami with evidence saying, look, this deck won't be overpowered if you unban this, this, and this, so do that, and then they took those points and enforced that.
I think it's much harder to prove that something isn't overpowered.
Yeah.
That something is.
Because you've only got to miss one interaction.
Well, exactly, but I'm
Right.
saying that you widen the pool of available people to test by providing the community with that opportunity. So you open up some kind of communication where people in the community can try things out. Do you think that is a good option that they could explore?
Yeah, I mean, that would obviously help.
Community should be getting involved, but you look at things like Cyberstein being a psychic monster for Reproductus. I can tell you for a fact that that was not tested. They did not consider that as a fact when they brought back Cyberstein, and within a day, that already was a problem.
Well, exactly. So the community
And that
can
team,
spot these things.
it's their job. It's their job. Like, say a community of 50 people, casual and competitive players, or a person who it's their job to literally look through every card in the game and balance the game. If they can't see it, there's just a chance that a group of 50 players would also miss the same thing.
Yeah, the issue, but then again, you could argue with that one. I agree with you, but there's also wisdom of crowds, which is, yeah, I agree. Those 50 players could definitely, but those 50 players,
50 people's knowledge.
you know, 50 people plus the R&D are going to be better equipped than just the R&D team.
Yeah.
Guess that makes me think of like certain PC games, like they have a server with like the newest update on, you can play it. I feel like
okay.
there could be that element, be like, this is the new set coming out, you can play it on, I don't know, duelingbook.konami, and you can play around with the new cards and build your new decks as if the set was out now. Have fun.
And then we just find out if anything's busted.
The player base size is an issue then, because Dueling Book will have like 1,000 people on, whereas like the PvE for League, they can get like 10, 100 times that. And they can there's a difference between like people reporting data versus them just being able to like collect data and view it however they want.
I can tell you for a fact that there's also a flaw that people just would not report issues for their own personal game.
Yeah, you'd actually have to be monitoring basically every game because.
So, say there was a
you could just
combo
look at a win
Dragonfly that you found out, you'll be like, yeah, Dragonfly's fine. And at the first regional, you've been testing this combo for a week.
And it's nuts.
Yeah.
Swarms the regional by storm.
But
And also,
I think
even if that wasn't happening, there'd be an element of people wondering if it was. Like if someone like genuinely did think it was fine, but still brought it because they liked the deck, and then when the regional people were like, "Well, were you just hiding this?"
Well, I'm not saying just bring everything back that the community says is fine. I'm saying if they suspect that something might be all right, they approach people in the community and say, test this extensively. They take
tell you
on
what, I'd love
Definitely
win
think
rates.
there should be a vote.
I
I
tell
think
you
there
what,
should be some kind of vote.
Yeah, actually, going on that, Andre, what I'd really like them to do is it would be really nice if they, in like a blog post, like they've just communicated when they're looking and a couple of others. What if they communicated on the list? Hey, we're looking at this card, this card, this card, and this card, and see how the community reacts.
Yeah, that'd be really nice.
So, like, hey, we're looking at Saryuja in this rank up, and kind of go, hey, we're looking at this. We're not sure, what should it be Bardi? Should it be the rank up? How many should Saryuja be at? These kind of questions. Just put them on this blog post and go, these are our thoughts. Maybe a month or a month, 6 weeks out from when they are planning on releasing a list.
I think
and go, hey, have a think.
The problem is someone would make a bot.
Of course, but it's more than that than the vote itself. It's more to be in tune with Konami, because I feel very distant to the card game in respect to what my influence could be.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I don't even.
Even if I can vote with 10,000 other people that I want Rusty to be banned, even if they don't ban Rusty, at least I felt that I could have had some input to it and that they're listening to what I have to say.
Yeah.
It's like the old card reveals.
I'm 100% sure that if they did a poll to unban Danelong, my mate would make a bot. Like,
But that
I mean,
comes down
you
to
submit your Konami player ID, right? That's your vote.
But I think like
he would make a bot anyway.
to get to anything vaguely near that, like people just have to react well to stuff like the recent Konami thing. Because like I think way back with like the emergency ban list or a ban list after that, they like actually gave their rationale, and
That
the
was so
community
good.
was just like your reasoning is terrible. We hate your ban list. We hate you.
That was the plant synchro.
There was one, I remember. They
That was-
explained every hit, and basically everyone was like, well, that's not the reason why you banned it, but well done.
Well, but wasn't the problem with that precisely that? It was because
It's
the
on
rack
Duel
was-
Links as well. On Duel Links, they use the term for
limiting the meta or something.
yeah, and they'll say like the fun element of the game, but the reality is 90% of the hits are to do with product sales
I do
than
agree.
anything else.
Do you know what I'd love to? Yeah, but do you know what I'd love to see? Is like why can't someone like Jerome, who makes all of these videos about new product and all this stuff, it would be nice if maybe after a ban list they could have a video talking about what's. But even if in that video you hype up the next set,
Of course. Be like, you could replace Rusty Bardiche with, and then show off a new card coming out in the next set.
I don't see how a company like Konami how that doesn't benefit them immediately.
It's like if they say they unbans the injectors or they unlimited or released one of them when the link came out in Flood. Was it Flood? They
That
could
would've
have
been
done
more
something
time.
like, no, you can use this with the new link coming out.
Because Konami are doing better at communication. They're getting better and better at it, particularly in Europe as well. I think Konami Europe's gone leaps and bounds. But the one thing that they aren't communicating on still, and this is the closest we've got, is them giving us this date, for the closest been for a little while, is the ban list. Like, this is a part of that, but it's also one of the most influential parts of the game. And I don't see how you can have a player base that's expanding and this game getting more and more popular, and you keep this kind of black box mentality when it. Because let's be honest, we kind of it leaves the player base to kind of half guess why they did things anyway.
I think that it's because we're like the third on the list. Like Konami Japan is talking with US, and then Europe is sort of in the dust behind those two when they're communicating.
Oh yeah,
I guess everything.
Yeah, I'm talking about Konami as a whole, of course, but I agree with you because Konami Europe. This is why I have massive credit to Europe, because they're doing you can tell they're doing everything they can, right? Because every inch that they have to, hey, let's involve the players. Silly things like a lot of them were behind the card reveals. The votes to reveal, hey, which card's going to be,
What's the giant card?
which card's going to be shown this week, or stuff like this. Like they are trying to push it as much as possible. But yeah, you are right. They're limited by obviously the structure of Konami. The next ban list, I think most people would agree, apart from those very problem cards, which is I think why they're talking about a small list. The reason we'd want a ban list would be just a bit of a refresh.
They have to be careful to find the balance, because you could just set like the game back 6 months quite easily.
Yeah, like I say, that becomes obvious when you look at. I mean, if you look at the power level of decks now versus, hey, let's take a completely ridiculous deck from before. Let's go full power Spiral, and go, hey, are decks more powerful now than they were?
So we did. You can do some fun experiments with this. In Oxford, we ran a full power event. I think shortly before Zoo, John?
I mean, I was playing Zoolanets, I think it was a bit after.
Yeah, and Zoo just completely trashed everything. Like, we had full power dragon rulers,
Really?
we had all sorts. And it was just the fact that you had
I mean,
a really accessible way to remove problems, and almost everything before that people brought to the table was just, I establish a problem, and Zoo just outed problem.
Yeah,
I guess that comes to one massive fact that you have all these master rules, but in reality, the biggest master rule has been the introduction of hand traps and how that actually impacts the game.
Yeah, definitely.
Power creep.
It's influence on the direction of the game. Because because let's be honest, that meant that purple cards, unless they have some extra ability or they're just broken in general, are not good enough.
Yeah.
But I think there needs to be some evolution to like any game at some point. Like trap cards are inherently slow and are going to be not phased out, but as a game evolves, obviously it's going to change quite a bit. I mean, hand traps have become a necessity, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Like it just means that the game's developed to a point where, they have to be played.
Oh no, I don't think anyone's arguing it's a bad thing. I think what Andre's trying to say is that's one of the reasons why the comparison that Joe was making between full power deck is a little bit of it's a bit unfair to make, because you're talking about a deck like Zoo was actually one of the reasons it was so good was because it was in the format where it had to play around hand traps because hand traps already existed more popular.
Yeah, that's the thing, because like full power spellbooks with access to today's card pool is stronger than full power spellbooks when full power spellbooks was around.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I think it's very hard to evaluate, these fantasy formats. It's just,
absolutely. I mean, how many older decks do we know that lose to one or one ogre?
Well,
or
that's also because deck building has changed so much in the 4 or 5 years since these older decks.
Just get a lot more value from singular cards.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was a 3 to 4 card combo for every hand to establish a board. Now we're talking 1 to 2 card is the whole shebang.
But we have an interesting point now, the fact that a combo deck establishes its combo in a single turn. So that's drastically sped up from previously. But it can't get any shorter than 1 turn, can it?
You've got a really good point there. It's literally at some point you've got to look at what direction Konami wants to go in now. Are you gonna try and slow down? Like, is that what you do here? Because as you're right, Joe, you can't speed it up. You're having decks make an Azathoth combo turn one, or make or make the Goliath combos, or all the Thunder Dragon combos, all of these turn one.
Yeah.
Something I'd really like to see is something like vaguely like the magic tapping system. I think a big issue at the moment is like, because you can negate something like, say, Critical Wing or the Hot Red thing, you negate on their turn and your turn as well. So like, if they can't throw their whole hand at your board, like they do a couple of plays that you negate, and they set a couple of cards, and they flip on your turn, and you negate them again, because like you can just, same with like Dryden, you pop on their turn, you pop on your turn. There's no reason not to.
The only real way to slow down the game is with any master rule that just inherently just changes the way the game is played, which just isn't going to happen.
One comes to mind instantly. For me.
That's what they tried to do with Lynx, but it just look at the game now.
No, they didn't. They didn't try to do it. They released File like 2 months.
Yeah, he's got a point. We just
Realistically,
going to.
you actually have options to power creep or change the game. They could. Ones that come to mind for me is increase the life points. It sounds silly, but in reality,
Yeah.
But then,
combo deck to accumulate a monster board. But if you have 16k life, you can wait another turn before you play.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
totally realistic.
that's a very good option actually.
which is a
Good
bit
one.
like what the new hand trap is.
Yeah,
meant to
no,
do,
yeah.
really. Like,
Yeah.
If say you put the life points to 16k, for instance, like Andre said, so you're doubling. Does that mean that Strike should now cost 3k? Because
I mean,
That's a
Judgment
good
now
point.
costs 8k.
sorry,
Judgment costs 8k.
Golden's still
Destrudo
back
costs
there.
8k.
yeah, Judgment does actually change, but all of the other ones, so Warning suddenly becomes a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Strike
Yeah.
becomes a lot cheaper. Anything with the life point cost suddenly becomes a lot cheaper. Things that have burned down, silly things like, I'm a Trickstar player. I'm looking at Trickstar Lycris. Wow, you become half as medium.
You guys are talking about slowing down the game. What is your opinion on having actual different formats? You know how like not Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic and Pokemon, they have these different formats where you have like modern, or like you have like sets that rotate out.
Mhm.
Whereas
I
in
think
Yu-Gi-Oh,
set
we can
rotation
use-
is the biggest.
I
part.
wouldn't want to split the game. I would not want to split the player base. Absolutely.
Speed Tools does that enough.
Also, like the issue with rotation is because Yu-Gi-Oh is so archetypal. Like you can just take any collection of like Magic sets and make decks from them. Whereas if you've got like one card from or a couple of cards from a load of different archetypes, it's going to be really weird.
Yeah.
And especially with imports as well. Like you import like was it like one Madolche card in the last set? It's like, well, this is great in standard format.
Everyone's opinions on Max D coming back.
Oh, the year-old question.
I like it.
If,
No, I
if
just
you
wanna
look on
hear-
Tier 0 games, when my player profile comes out, my favorite card is Maxi.
I
thought
think
we
it's
can't
too polarizing. It's just too powerful.
Come back. They should just redesign a new card that has a similar role. Maxi's had its day.
Yeah.
Well, they made Phantasme,
Yeah.
and
I
it's
agree.
like something.
Yeah, of course.
Do you think Maxia would have been fairer if it's just from the extra deck?
Yes.
That could be an example of a different card. Maxi's a floodgate, and I think
No.
there was a particular UK player that made a massive long post, but
Can we
the
not
point
name
of the
them?
whole post was if the floodgate becomes a main deck option in most popular decks, then it is a problem because floodgates are very fair cards and good for the game. But once the card becomes a staple, then it's a problem because
Yeah,
it's
that's-
shaping the format.
Like,
That's
I like
the only difference
It
between Maxi
shapes
and
the
Drop.
format far too much. Like it's way too polarizing. Like,
It's
you
not
have to play
reactive.
around.
A lot
It's not
better.
It's not-
reactive.
it's not-
It's
Oh, I've drawn this, therefore I win.
if a viable decision was okay, he's maxing me, I'm gonna stop and just not do anything. That'd be fine. But it was just like
Yeah.
I make my board and they kill me with 12, 15 cards, or I do nothing and they kill me because I did nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
It was fair for a long time because there was nothing to draw into, and most games went past a couple of turns. So in reality, it
Yeah.
was: do you want to establish a couple of cards for my +1, or do you want to start now? And that was a very
Yeah.
fair element of the card.
Maybe something like it was like on your next, like after you max E on your next turn, like you can't do damage to them or something, so they can choose to just like stop. Like that would make it fairer. But again, that's just an example of a different card.
If Maxi says draw during the end phase.
If Maxi said, when it's sent to the graveyard, give your opponent a Maxi, and see what happens then. So everyone has constant Maxi.
Maximum speed.
After you discard this, give your opponent your maxi permanently.
Oh my god.
Ron Lockbird is the same kind of it, as you said, Andre. It's a floodgate.
Yeah.
Like
the same
it's
mechanic.
for the whole. It's a hand trap, but it's not a
Lingering
normal hand
effect.
trap. It's not a 1-for-1 interaction. It
Lancia
affects.
as well.
Droll was only complained about when it was main deck, and that goes back to the example. Once it becomes a main deck option, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and then the good thing is Konami did get that one right. In terms of they realised that wasn't the issue.
When you're building your deck, if Droll becomes popular, it's going to sway you from using unnecessary cards that lose to Droll.
And then draw becomes
Yeah.
unpopular again.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
that gives you a deck building element that is actually fun instead of max C's at 3 in every deck. So all these cards are just like floodgates. I guess this is the key topic of this whole discussion. Floodgates themselves, we're saying like Denko Saka reboot. All these cards, yes, they hit back row. I'm sorry, Ryan, but they lead to great deck building possibilities that the side deck can actually be utilized properly. Side decking is like a very important aspect of the game. That if these cards didn't exist, what are you going to side deck into? A better going first.
So I think
Reality.
I think really floodgates are great for the game where they don't hit everything that's popular. They have to be in a side because they don't hit enough of the meta. And you have to choose based on the event or based on what's been popular recently.
The only one I'd say that I don't necessarily agree with is I don't know whether Imperial Order has a place in this in the meta.
1/3 of the cards is quite a lot.
What's
So
that?
it's not a third of the cards. It's
Oh,
3
yeah,
out of
1/3 of the
44 in
main
Thunder
deck
Dragons.
I like Imperial Order personally.
I guess this goes back
Only
to
PS4.
I lost to this card. You're going to have that with anything. Have you ever gone out of a match and be like, wow, I just lost because my opponent top decked Salomon Great Circle? Are you happy about that? It's just a Salomon Great Circle.
Yeah.
You're not
But
going to be
the thing with
happy to whatever card you lose to.
What do you think
Mhm.
of Macro and D Fisher?
I don't think there's no need for them to be limited in my opinion. I
There's
think
no
like,
need, but they have them there just for the ability to bring out new decks. That's why they're at 1, basically. That's the reason behind that.
It's also one of them things where I don't care enough to complain about it. Like,
I just want
like,
more
and I
bats.
say the
No
majority of the
floodgates,
player
please.
base is in that place with those two cards, where it's like,
I'll tell you right now, if there was a banished deck, they would bring back D Fissure to 3 as a way to support it.
yeah.
Please.
I agree with you. Like, that's
Please.
exactly what they would do. Yeah, I think the one thing that would be interesting to see is I don't know how much of whether it. I know it exists for Gozen, but if there's a card which would like be rivalry but for a turn.
Yeah.
I guess you have like Maxi for a turn and Mistake for a turn in Shared Rider, Mistake and Arrest.
In some ways, that can be more oppressive because it removes things like MSD and Twin Twister as an answer. So, like, if they set up the board and
It removes balance because if you're putting in these floodgates, I guess it's these main deck floodgates, sometimes you don't have to actually play around them affecting you if you're setting them up first. For example, if Emptiness was only for a turn, you could use it for their turn,
Yeah.
I guess maxi them out, and then play on your turn.
You could rivalry them out in their turn and then be fine in your turn.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not even saying it should be lingering for the turn or whatever. I'm more saying like when I say for at a turn, I mean at an instance kind of thing. So like balance, like the what's it called, balance of the element.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I'm not saying it's necessarily the solution or anything, but it would be an interesting take on floodgates going forward to not have them all be continuous and all be lingering and all be
Could be archetypes.
you should just
yeah,
see
quite
one that just
possibly,
locks
because
for
I
a
think
phase.
now. What's that? Sorry.
I'd be interested to see one like the Battle of the Elements that's just like for a phase.
Yeah, even then, because the issue I think you have now with all of these cards being continuous and lingering is once you get hit by, say you get hit by one and it disrupts your board, your recovery is also limited at the same time. Like, that's the issue with it, is that I feel like they can be, that's the only time where floodgates can be a bit too powerful.
comes down to balance, though. These cards have pros and cons compared to every card in the game. You just have to weigh up if they're. I guess we can go to win rate. If the win rate's just so high, then it becomes a problem, or its usability. It's just too generic.
And,
I think it's
ironically,
also
I
like
think-
the more floodgates there are, the harder it is to build around. Because like quite often deck profiles you see like them saying like these 2 floodgates are popular, and even though my deck is hurt by them, here is like this play that my deck could do to out it under the floodgate.
Yeah, but that's good. That's
Yeah,
very
I'm
good.
saying that's a good thing. But then if there's like 5 floodgates, suddenly you're not going to be able to like necessarily deal with all of them.
All the gates, I can protect them.
Mm.
For
And that's the problem with
example,
Sanctum.
and Raw, also with like there can be only one, and Fiendless with Guru. It just becomes too much.
I think negates have become every archetype having its negate has become a little bit too popular. I'd like
That's a really bad, like, I guess, archetype angle from Konami that they're giving every deck a rotor and then a negate now, and it just feels like a habit.
What I'd love them to do is, like you kind of said earlier, Andre, I'd love to see an archetype that was basically, rather than being based around, hey, I'm going to make this board, or hey, I'm going to do this negate, it's just a whole game mechanic. It's just a whole, hey, we're going to, maybe it changes a game mechanic in some way.
Yeah, I was thinking that Valkyrie comes to mind. They get 2 pendulum summons.
Yeah,
I mean, Zoo had the 1-card XZs.
Yeah, no, exactly. But Zoo for a tier 0 deck, I think most people agree that for a tier 0 deck, it was a very healthy deck.
Yeah.
It was very easy to break and rebuild.
Other
So.
than Fusion Set.
Fusion's a different thing. That was Northern Zoo.
Yeah, that's true. But it's also because the mirror was fun. I think that was a big part of it.
But that's why the mirror was fun.
Firewall.
I think if we're going to talk about updates to mechanics, and I think John made a good point with the tapping system in Magic. You have some level of introduction with things like the Endymions having a spell counter. The fact that suppose you had a deck where it generated a spell counter during your standby phase, and then you use that spell counter to do something.
Yeah, well, but even something like Endymion existing in the first place, that's cool. It's different.
Yeah.
It's not. The only problem with it though is what have they done with it? The deck puts up negates. That's all you get seem to do right now.
It's not fun. That's not a fun element. I think everyone can agree, even if they like combo decks or control decks, the games where they go on excessively long in a positive way are the best games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
It's like if you play a combo mirror, but both of you half go off, and you have to actually really think about micro interactions, or you play a control game that's gone to top deck. Those are the best types of games.
I think like most tournament streams, the best matches are the ones where both players brick completely and are having to just pull everything out of their ass because decks are not doing what they're meant to do.
Yeah.
You're like hitting him with a 1900 attack monster.
Don't you giving me
No,
flashbacks?
you have to attack with Maxi for game. That's what you have to do.
Whenever people end up normal summoning hand traps to make plays, that's just the best thing.
That's the best thing. So really, we want Konami to make more hand traps so that we can normal summon them.
Well, it's just quite funny that what we're basically saying is Yu-Gi-Oh's best when decks don't work perfectly.
Yeah.
But I think because that's when like knowledge of like underlying rules and systems and how they interact is more important than being like I know exactly what to do when I draw these 2 cards.
Yeah, this is where we're coming at it from competitive players, where we're looking at this and going, how can we reward skill in Yu-Gi-Oh?
And that's kind of what I was trying to when I was saying that, like, I really like the matches where there's like lots of decision points and
What unusual games? You learn the most from the unusual games. If you're just doing your bread and butter combos and playing against the same boards, they get stale very quickly.
But can you spend 10 hours playing unusual games, or will you die from that? You know.
I think I would have a serious headache and want to go to sleep.
But that's fine because then. But all that is you just. That's then Konami need to. Its onus is on them to adjust the variant of the game. So to take consistency cards out of things like it's a bit like your problem saying every archetype, as well as having negates, which I don't like every archetype in negate. I think it's silly, but I also think it's silly, as you said, Andre. Every deck has a rotor.
Yeah.
It's like, do you need it? You know, sometimes
I think the other thing is like every deck functionally has a negate because there's so many fairly generic negates in the extra deck.
Yeah, that's
But
definitely
that leads to a lot of deck building enjoyment that you could utilize these generic cards in that way. I think that's fine.
Fair enough.
Yo, guys. Unfortunately, the store has to close, so we have to leave the store.
No, that's fair enough. I think we should probably call it a night
Yes,
before we end up rambling until the early hours in the morning.
Found out that me and Billy like to talk a lot. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah, I apologise for dominating
No,
too
no.
much the conversation.
You gotta save something for next time.
Any information is good information.
Thanks for having us. But yeah, we gotta go and also make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Yu-Gi-Oh! I got you though. Don't worry, man. I got you, fam. Anyway, good night, guys. Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks very much for watching this episode of The Better Meta. If you enjoy this content, then leave me a like or put a note in the comment section just letting me know things about this series that you enjoy. I am planning on doing a few more episodes of this in the future, maybe something like once a month we'll do these. And the plan, really, ideally, is to, in future, have the full-length clip or the full conversation all happening on a Discord or a Twitch channel so that everyone who's interested can take part live and throw in their suggestions as well. And then once again, I'll be editing together all of the little bits and combining them into a series that you guys can actually enjoy on YouTube as well.